Good morning, everybody. I hope you all had a good weekend and are all looking forward to the week ahead. So, if we have a look at what happened in the markets last week, we saw the Dow Jones fall 0.4%. The Nasdaq also fell 0.4%. Coincidentally enough, both markets actually fell 0.3%. So, precisely the same falls, which I don't think I've seen before. We saw the FTSE increase by 2.2% in the week due to the fall in the value of the pound, which I'll talk about in a minute. The bundle of four would have outperformed the Nasdaq, up 0.3% against a fall of 0.4% in the Nasdaq. The Nikkei was up 2.5%, Shanghai was down 1%, and the DAX in Germany on a 4-day trading week was down 0.2%. So, of course, the biggest story of the week was in the currency markets, where we saw the pound take a significant fall against the value of the US dollar. At one point, it was down as much as 6%. If we look at the stat for the week, it was down 4.2% on the week. Now, there's been a lot of speculation about what's caused this fall, even a flash crash, as it's known, even talk of it possibly being a fat finger, where somebody traded an incorrect amount and then that had a knock-on effect. But I think it's more likely to do with some of Francois Hollande's fairly stiff words about the apparent hard Brexit that's going to happen. I mean, Brexit's happening, and you're going to see volatility going on in the pound at the moment. But longer term, at 124, 125, it's still got to be a great buy. And like I spoke about Terry Smith last week, investing in the same companies and in his own funds that he advises clients to do, I indeed did also buy some British pounds with some US dollars when I saw it down at 124, 125, because longer term play, there's got to be some value there. So we saw the US dollar and the euro remain at 112, so that was flat for the week. And the Japanese yen finally started to soften and give a bit back. It went from 101 to 103. The Japanese are crying out for their Japanese yen to weaken somewhat so to improve their export markets, and that would have had a knock-on effect in the Nikkei, and that's why the Nikkei was up, because we saw a fall in the value of the yen, or one of the reasons. So again, to come back to the sort of two sides of the coin there, where you may be a pound investor and of course you see the value of your shares go up, but the value of your currency go down. And the reason for that is because a lot of the major players in the FTSE are in fact global players. And you'll know if you listen to me regularly that my themes do revolve around global players. I do believe in companies that do have investments and derive revenue all over the world. And one issue that does is it does protect you a little bit from a currency risk. Large multinational companies that pay regular dividends and have businesses and investments all over the world should form an integral part of your portfolio, in my opinion. And looking at data in general, are we in a bad place right now? I mean, okay, you've got the things going on in the US with this sort of underlying discontent. But when you look at the actual raw data, the UK, for instance, we have 74.5% of the population is currently employed. That's the highest since records began in 1971. And in the US, the unemployment level just hit 5% from 4.9%, which is still significantly under the average since their records began in the 1950s, the average being 5.8%. So all in all, I think the world's not in such a bad place economically. I think that obviously the interest rates are still going to be where they are for the foreseeable future, and certainly this year, and certainly when we get a little bit of a knock-on effect from what's going to happen in the US election, then we may see the decision to delay interest rates even longer. Emerging markets is another theme that I like to talk about, and I had a quick look at these before talking today. And the important thing with emerging markets is you need to know where to go, and you need to have the right manager buying the right companies in the right parts of the world in order to make money out of this area. Case in point, if we look at the BRIC, as we call them, Brazil, Russia, India, China this year, you'll see some disparity between the way the markets have performed. India this year, which a lot of I like, is up 7.3%. China, on the other hand, is down 15.1%. We had that mini crash back in February, which is one of the reasons for that. Russia due to the fact that we've had an increase in commodities and oil, is up 12.4%, and Brazil is the star of the show, up over 32% year to date. Of course, there are lots of other countries and areas around the world which are also into that emerging market space, and if you're going to invest there, it's important that you pick the right people who know and understand the areas that they're in. So it's pretty quiet from the sporting weekend, from the sports that I follow. It is an international week. I do wonder whether or not it's worth it sometimes with the teams of San Marino and Malta. The greatest respect to them. Perhaps there should be some kind of preliminary qualifying where they can play, and perhaps even a way where they can get themselves a proper opportunity of qualifying. Because quite frankly, going out and playing against these teams for guys that are on, Premiership stars playing against people that sit on airport counters and is a waste of time in my opinion. So anyway, we'll end with a quote, and again I know we tend to use Warren Buffett a little bit too often, but he's got so many good quotes out there that I think we may as well use a new one. And it's all about patience. Like I talk about patience, and I talk about 3 to 5 years, looking at medium to long term capital growth in the clients that I look after. And one of Warren's comments is, the stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient. Well, there we go. Have a good week. Anything you need, let me know. Cheers, bye.